The assign came through as a routine accompany and facilitate. That is what the paperwork said. I have kept the paperwork. Vethkalis Xenobiology Station 14 sat in low orbit over a pale moon that nobody had named yet, which told me everything about the priorities of the people who built it. It was a clean facility, all brushed aluminum corridors, and softly humming environmental seals, the kind of place where the lighting never changed and the air smelled like recirculated nothing. The researchers there had spent 3 years cataloging Earth fauna from tissue samples and secondhand reports. They had opinions. They had published papers. They had notably never met one. My orders were simple. Accompany the Beagle, facilitate access, sign the release forms, do not interfere with the research process. Standard liaison duty. I had done it twice before, at smaller stations, and it had gone fine both times. The researchers asked questions. Depot sat there being a Beagle. Everyone filled out their forms, and we went home. I should have read the personnel file more carefully. Depot was 6 years old, 14 kilograms. Color: the usual brown and black saddle over white, with the kind of face that made alien researchers reach for their notebooks and write words like shoot docile, scene end, threat index. Before he had even finished sniffing the threshold, he had a harness with brass buckles and a blue patch on the left shoulder that said K9 Auxiliary, in both standard and Vethkalis script, because the embassy had insisted on the dual labeling, and I had not argued. He walked at my left knee without being told to. He always had. Senior researcher Holoth met us at the airlock. She was tall, slate purple, 4-fingered hands that she kept folded in front of her, like she was about to begin a lecture. She had 3 junior colleagues behind her, all with the same posture, all holding the same slim data tablets. They looked at Depot the way someone looks at a specimen jar. Cadet Solis. She said my name the way someone reads a label. And the animal. His name is Depot, I said. She wrote something on her tablet. Designation noted. This is the bomb detection subspecies? Working detection, yes. Weight 14 kilograms. Height, she tilted her head, consulting something. 37 centimeters at the shoulder. Dental structure consistent with the Canis lupus familiaris. Omnivore profile. She said all of this to the tablet, not to me. 3 classification in your military zone documents. Low, handler dependent. Non-aggressive absent direct provocation. Depot sat down and scratched his left ear with his back foot. That's one way to read the documents, I said. She looked up. You disagree with your own military's classification? I thought about how to answer that. Say the classification reflects his behavior under normal conditions. She wrote something else. I did not ask what. The tour was thorough. Holoth walked us through 3 floors of specimen labs, environmental chambers, and what she called the primary observation suite. A large, clean room with a long table, recording equipment on every wall, and a floor-to-ceiling window that looked out over the moon's surface. The junior researchers took turns asking questions. How often did he eat? What was the mechanism of his scent detection? Had he ever displayed aggression? I answered carefully. Depot trotted along beside me, nose working constantly, pausing occasionally to investigate a wall joint or a ventilation seam, with the focused, methodical attention he brought to everything. At one point, he sat down in front of a sealed specimen locker and stared at it until I said quietly, "Leave it," and he moved on. Nobody asked about that. We reached the primary observation suite just before the station's midday cycle. Holoth gestured me toward a chair at the far end of the table and positioned her colleagues along the sides with their tablets ready. She herself remained standing near the center. We will begin with the proximity assessment, she said. Cadet, please release the leash. I unclipped it. Depot sat beside my chair. Can you direct him toward the center of the room? I made a small hand signal. Depot stood up and walked to the center of the room and sat there, looking around with the same calm, calmed expression brought to everything. His tail moved in its slow, even metronome arc. The junior researchers typed. Holoth circled him slowly, about 2 meters out, tablet raised. Remarkable, one of the juniors said. Unremarkable, actually, Holoth said in the tone of someone correcting a student. The breed's temperament is well documented. The threat response thresholds are. She took 1 step closer, substantially higher than the popular mythology suggests. Another step. She was perhaps a meter away now, crouched slightly, holding her tablet up to record. The Earth handler community has, in my assessment, significantly overstated. I'd stay back, I said. She looked at me. The documentation is quite clear on non-aggression absent direct. I know what the documentation says. She looked back at Depot. He was looking at her, not moving. Tail still, nose working in that careful, deliberate way that meant he had finished gathering information, and was now simply waiting. His eyes were dark and very calm. Hollis took another step forward. I did not say anything else. There was nothing useful left to say. What happened next took less time than it takes to describe. Hollis did not complete the step. The 3 junior researchers were in the corridor. Before I had fully registered the sound of their chairs, the junior, at the far end, went through the door. So fast he left his tablet on the table. Hollis herself was pressed against the observation window, with both 4-fingered hands flat on the glass, and the only sound in the room was the environmental hum, and, underneath it, Depot's slow breathing. He was sitting in the center of the floor. He had not moved. His tail started up again after a moment, slow even. I stood up, walked to the center of the room, the leash back onto his harness, and told him he was a good boy. He leaned against my leg. Hollis did not move from the window for some time. I found the break room on the 2nd floor by following the smell of something that approximated coffee. It was not good coffee, but it was hot and it was there, and I filled a cup and sat down at the small table near the door. Depot lay down across my boots and sighed the long, settling sigh of a dog who had completed a satisfying amount of work and was now prepared to rest. His eyes were half closed. His breathing was slow and even. I was on my 2nd cup when Hollis came in. She sat down across from me. Her hands were steadier than I expected. She set a single document on the table between us, a short form, 2 paragraphs, the embassy seal at the top. Non-disclosure addendum, she said. Standard protocol for anomalous research outcomes. I picked it up and read it. It was, in fact, standard. I signed it. She took it back. She looked at Depot for a moment. He did not open his eyes. The documentation, she said finally. It was accurate. It was. Handler dependent. Non-aggressive absent direct provocation. She said both phrases carefully, like she was rereading something she had memorized wrong. We interpreted. Direct provocation. Physical contact or verbal command. Most people do. That is not what it means. No, I said, it isn't. She was quiet for a moment. Outside the small porthole window behind her, the unnamed moon turned slowly in its orbit. What does it mean? She asked. I looked down at Depot. He had shifted slightly in his sleep, tucking his nose under his tail. 14 kilograms. 37 centimeters at the shoulder. Classification. Low. It means he decides, I said. She didn't write that down. She didn't need to. I finished my coffee. Depot slept. The station's soft environmental hum filled the room, and the forms were signed. And outside the window the pale moon turned on, without a name. And none of it required any further comment from either of us.